Hello and how are you, to you sports lovers out there? My name is Robbie Gillette. Welcome to conversation number 19 of the Keeping It Real with Robbie podcast, where we chat all things from the mental side of sport to stories, laughs and banter. Whether it's the old pigskin or the old leather ball, we've got you. Today I'm joined by Surrey spinner Dan Moriarty as we chat and explore his journey through school cricket and the noise that surrounds it in South Africa, to his cricket journey in the UK to play his debut for Surrey. Don't forget to do me the biggest favour in the world and press that subscribe button on YouTube to become part of this awesome fam. I hope you guys enjoyed the first one back after a while, and here's to many more quality conversations. Right, so we're back. A bit of a long break, but what better way to get back into things with a guy that I've known for years and was probably the longest at Rondebosch, I'd say. I don't know if you recall, but I think it would have been my cousin and your brother who were playing a cricket game, and this guy approached me and said, no, let's go and play in the nets. And I always pegged myself as a pretty average cricketer, but a great garden cricketer. And, we got in the nets and Moz humbled me very quickly. Ever since then, Moz has been, he's won every single battle. But, thanks for coming on, bro. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, bro.
Sweet, bro.
Excited to be here.
But I guess, before we get into everything, how are you? How was training? You back from your fishing trips with Hash?
Yeah, back into things now. Obviously, quite a strict lockdown in the UK, but nice to be back training. One-on-one stuff, which is nice. Get a few hours a day, but yeah, happy and grateful to be able to be training during these times.
Loving it. But so first of all, thanks for coming on. And second of all, I'm really excited to kind of explore and chat about Moz and I saw each other at gym the other day, and shame, but he actually, when I walked in, he was like, geez, who's this like strapping young lad walking through? And I had to calm him down and say, Moz, don't worry, it's me, Robbie. We know each other. No, I'm joking. Moz was killing those weights. But off the back of that, I'm really excited to get stuck into some certain topics that I think you'll have a fairly good opinion on, having been through it yourself. Moz, a lot of people won't know this, but you actually stayed back a year in high school. Was that to play cricket, or was it to kind of further improve your marks, or was it a kind of a career move now? You've moved on to flipping high honors there. So was it a cricket move, or was it academic?
Yeah, it was a combination of things. Hey, that my first grade 11 year, I went on the Recon exchange and ended up missing pretty much the whole of the second term junior exam. At the time, it was great. Yeah, I know. But yeah, when I came back, it kind of it caught up to me a bit. The academic side was found a bit wanting, and
okay.
And another thing was, like, I was always a year younger than everybody in my grade. So because I started school in Botswana, I was a year younger. We started earlier there. So it kind of made sense to my parents and to me, like, to use this year as an opportunity to kind of, get amongst my peers again and use it to benefit, obviously, sport and more so academics, because, grade 11 is such an important year when applying to all of the SAUs and stuff. So pretty much it, yeah. It was quite simple to make the decision after that.
And so you're always quite successful at school in terms of accolades and being on the board and your representative sides. How do you reflect on your time at school?
Yeah, school cricket is an amazing thing. You only realize when you leave school how incredible it is, especially like Cape Town school cricket. Every Saturday you get to play at different amazing venues and you get to play with all your mates, and it's very special, bro. I look back at my time, especially at Rondebosch, such a prestigious cricket school, very, very fondly. Those achievements and stuff, I hold them very dear to my heart, and to have represented a few sides as well during school was just the cherry on top. So yeah, it was amazing.
Moz, we chatted at gym briefly about it, but I think now we're going to get into the thick of things. I feel quite strongly about it, but, do you think there's too much noise in terms of school cricket? I've experienced it. You play at these phenomenal venues every weekend with your mates. But I think it becomes a bit of quite a grey area when politics become involved, especially when parents become involved too heavily. Like, there's a huge difference between supporting your kid and like killing another kid's confidence. Yeah, I suppose first of all, do you think there's maybe too much noise in terms of school cricket that you experienced as well?
Yeah, I think the thing with South African school sports in general is it's so competitive. It's such a high standard, and having played schools, all around the world, it shows South Africa is like leaps and bounds ahead in that sense, and it kind of it it brings upon like an element of being too professional in some ways, and as you say, that develops its own kind of pressures and things like that. So with school sports, like I think enjoyment has to be the priority because it's a short time. You're playing first team sports for maybe 2-3 years at a max. Like you have to be having fun and it's with your mates. And I think now, like in our generation, and it's even starting from like under 10s. Like now, I think you see it. There's a lot more pressure on kids. Like people are trying to make their kids perform, to a certain standard that they believe is right, and you get vicarious parents and things like that. And I think it kind of takes away from why school sport is so special.
Yeah. So it's I'd say school sports has got to be one of the most pure forms of enjoyment. And I think having that outside noise of like just a parent chirping you can kill confidence pretty quickly. So it's quite interesting. Like, did you experience that at school?
Not personally. I started to like very late, like late on, just before I matriculated and stuff. You could start to see what it looked like. Like I was quite fortunate. My parents were very very relaxed with my sport. Like they never really, they're obviously very supportive, but they were never putting pressure on me to, go out and score runs. Otherwise, you're gonna walk home or whatever the story was. But you started to see it within like some of my teammates and stuff where you can see there's a lot of pressure on them to perform, and they kind of lose interest after a while. That it becomes too much because you can kind of just give up if you want to, and when you lose that enjoyment factor, with anything like you can't continue. It's not sustainable, and it's quite sad to see that.
Do you think that environment has like kind of helped you as well in terms of like going over and it's pretty professional as you say already? Do you think that environment has kind of molded you into already kind of a professional, or is that thinking?
Yeah, there's a distinct line between like your professional sport and playing sport for fun and stuff, and as they say, like you are a product of your environment, and being in a professional setup, you have to learn to become professional very quickly in all aspects. And that's why, like, when you reflect back, like looking back at school cricket, those are the kind of times where as you say, it's like the purest form. And if it's not a job, you must be enjoying it. Take everything out of it that you can.
Right, Moz, let's move on to a game of who is and why, and then we can get stuck into post-school. So who is the nightmare in the nets?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. There's a couple of guys who are not really fun to face. I would say early season in our early season nets and stuff, when it's a bit green and it's nipping around a bit. Guys like Mornay it's a challenge altogether. I mean, you've seen the guy, you've watched it on TV. It's quick, it's tall, it's bouncy, it's nipping around, and the ball just follows you. It's not pleasant.
Yeah, I know, bro. I don't have the stones to get in the nets and face the guy kind of bowling. But were there any guys, I suppose, that you got in the nets and you just watched, and then you got in and you were like, okay, this is what I was watching.
Yeah, I think like watching things on TV and stuff, it dulls it down a bit. The intensity is high, and these guys are the best in the world at what they do, and it's a phenomenal skill to be able to do what people do. And you have to you learn to appreciate a lot more when you're on the receiving end or watching, live.
Who is the messiest?
Our change room, the way our change room is set up, it's actually, I'd make this between Rory Burns and Ben Folkes. They are, obviously two England cricketers, and they have a lot of kit for one, probably about 100 bats between them, and you can kind of find some of their stuff in all four corners of our change room. Their stuff just manages to float around everywhere. So I'd probably say, those two, just on volume stuff.
Those England cricketers, bro. You can't take them anywhere. Who's quality on a night out?
Interesting one. Reece Topley, he's a good friend of mine. Also plays for England. Left arm seamer. He's great value. Phenomenal banter.
Yeah.
Really funny. Just always produces the goods. We always have a good time together. Just a great man.
Is there much of that in the UK or like cricket? I know in rugby the drinking culture is quite big, but in cricket is it a bit? I don't want to say more professional because I think a few beers after the game doesn't hurt, but like in cricket, is it still big?
Yeah, it's kind of like a time and a place thing. We try and emphasize to have a balance, and if we win a 4-day game or more so like a tournament or something, there's definitely like
room for it.
Guys will have a beer, and you've got to celebrate your wins and stuff. But I think it all boils down to moderation. Find the right balance. It's a long season, and you can't be getting out of hand, let's say.
How long are your seasons? Like when do you start? When do you finish? I should know this.
We have warm-up games and like inter-squad games at the end of March, and then the official season starts early April, and it runs pretty much the end of September.
Wow.
So it's a very tough season,
That's quite interesting. We'll explore it a bit later. Who's the best player you've ever played against?
I had to give this it took a lot of thought. Like, it's hard to put it down to one person, but if I had to say, it's actually someone I've been playing with and been fortunate enough to spend a lot of time in the nets with, and that's the great man himself, Hashim Amla. I mean,
must be.
It's incredible to watch him go about his business, and like particularly the way he plays spin. He challenges me quite a lot in the nets, and it's just an enjoyable battle, and it's just a massive respect for the amount of skill he has.
Still as professional as ever?
Yeah.
That's incredible, bro. I have so much respect for that man.
He hits the most balls, and he loves cricket. I mean, and it shows.
It's insane. Who is always late?
Late. To be fair, we punctuality is quite a big part of our culture at our club. So we put a lot of emphasis on it. So the guys are actually really good with that. There's not many latecomers, to be very honest with you.
It's crazy, bro. I think I've asked that one a few times, and the only one I think Chris Van Sale was the only guy who said like, these guys are late to like social events, but that's the only one that was like, they've actually given a name. I think that punctuality is like strict in that professionalism, like
massively. It's like a controllable thing, and you don't want to get fined or anything. So just be early.
Just set your alarm. Who is the kit man's nightmare?
Probably I would say Conor McCurr. He's the guy I live with, one of my good friends, and he's a big guy. And he manages to tear a lot of his clothing items, particularly his shorts. I mean, he squats about 700 kilos, and he goes through a lot of kit. And he's probably the guy who requires the most change of garmentries, I would say.
650 kilos more than I squat, so that's good. Is he there now?
He is, yes, he is.
That's it. I think let's chat post school, where you've kind of made your name. I mean, you obviously made a name for yourself at school level. I suppose, what was kind of the biggest factor that drove you to the UK?
I would say I was born there, so I only lived there for about a year, And having the passport was always something,
Glorious.
it is.
Glorious.
It's a useful item to carry, and I would say that was probably the biggest factor. And then obviously just an opportunity. There's a lot of the way the county's set up is structured. There's a lot of kind of teams over here, and it's a phenomenal opportunity. And I always thought, if I could get over here and do it right, it could prove. And luckily, it kind of worked out like that.
Yeah, I'd say it worked out fairly well. Can you give us a rundown of how the whole system that side works? And it wasn't in the thing I sent you, but your experience through it. Like, how did you experience? So, I don't know, kind of your first game to where you are now. Would you ever have expected to be where you are at the moment?
Yeah. So, in short, the system it's made up of 18 counties, and within those counties we have a first and a second team. And so obviously your second team cricket is not classed as first class or list A or stuff. And that's where I started playing. So I started trialing. So I trialed at a few counties, playing in the second sides, and then played against Surrey actually, and bowled quite well, and managed to secure a trial with them. Then went on trial with them, played the last 3 games of the season, managed to do it right again, and they kind of signed me off the back of that.
So does it sound almost like less structured or than South Africa? Like here you go from like club to maybe if you get noticed like semi-pro, and then, or am I wrong?
Similar in a way where the progression for someone who lives over here would be club cricket into either an academy or a second team, and then to be contracted, and then kind of progress into the main squad, the first playing 11.
So did you go over to play cricket, right? Am I correct?
That was the main idea.
So you play your first club game, and then what? A year later, you played for Surrey.
If you had to sum it up like that, there was a fair few journeys, along the way. A couple of trials that didn't go so well, and lots of cricket. I mean, as I say, like the season over here is long, and if you want to play, you can be playing 3-4 times a week, and that was the mindset I came here with. It was like, get as much cricket in as possible, try and do, well, turn up to every game, give yourself the best opportunity, and then hopefully get picked up somewhere.
Yeah, I know you said it was, or we calling it a year, and there was lots of journeys. Was there ever a journey that you thought, I don't really feel like taking this one, and let's just pack it up, go back to South Africa? Or was it always a mindset of, I'm here, I'm going to make it?
Yeah, I think you have to. I try to think that I was always close. You'd like to think always a few performances away from something, and that was kind of the main motivator, I would say, because I was away from home, and cricket was pretty much all I had to focus on, and so I dedicated a lot of my kind of time and energy towards that, and luckily it paid off.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I've seen quite a few things of like, you actually don't know, like success could be around that corner. It's like you give up just before, because nothing's happened. You're like stagnant, and then literally around that corner, a week's work, you're successful. It's crazy how those margins work, actually, I think. But yeah, most 5-1 debut, pretty special, I'd say. Going into the game, nerves on a scale of maybe 1 to 10.
Yeah, nerves and excitement, you can confuse them quite easily. I would say emotionally 10 out of 10. I was feeling a lot. There was a lot going on, and it was more like the build up towards the game. Our season had been postponed. This was supposed to be my first like professional season, so there was a bit of like I wasn't sure. There was very little clarity about when we were going to start and what was going to happen, and we got training in June. The squad kind of rejoined, and then a couple of guys went away with England, and we had a few injuries, unfortunately, and the opportunity kind of just presented itself. I was not expecting to play and was selected, which was like, yeah, just the achievement in itself. I was making my debut for an amazing club, and with that, yeah, it walked onto the field and was nervous for about 3 or 4 overs, and then you kind of realize that it's just another game of cricket, maybe a little bit more on the line, but
you also don't want to drop any catches. That would be my thing. Like, just don't misfield the drop.
you have to hide yourself for a little bit, and then, but I mean, it's another game of cricket, and once you get going, after I bowled a few overs as well, kind of all of that nervousness was settled, and you kind of focus into your role, and
you get into it. You're like, okay, fired up now. Let's go.
Yeah.
How do you keep that momentum, Moz?
The season, as I say, it's a long season, and it sounds cliche, but it's so important to have good processes in a sense where you are preparing before games and for after games. You want consistency, and you need sustainability in performance, and having good kind of practice routines, and kind of managing your emotions after success and failure. It's kind of an unspoken thing in cricket. There's more focus now going into like the mental side of sport and stuff, and that's what kind of fascinated me, because you can find yourself, after performing really well, naturally you are excited and very happy, and that can kind of put you into a lull where you rock up to practice the next week and you think, well, I went nicely.
Yeah.
The other like I'm okay here, but it's kind of the +1 mentality you have to carry. You need to kind of start again and almost pretend that didn't happen in the best way possible, and then build again, and trust your processes, and prepare like, you need to make another match-winning performance.
So would you say the Dan Moriarty brand is process-driven, not outcome-driven? I don't know if you watched the test with Justin Langer, and then all they spoke about was like, obviously you don't want to lose games, but let's be good in our processes. Let's focus on process, because we know, at a professional setup, you're not going to have a process that isn't top of the range, world class. Like, the processes are there, so let's focus on process. So would you say that's kind of the Dan Moriarty brand?
Yeah, I definitely. I think in a game that like cricket, where there are so many things that are out of your control, your process and the way you prepare is one of the only things you can really control. And if you know that you are giving yourself the best chance, the outcome is kind of irrelevant, because, as you know, like, you can feel great and you might not get runs. You can feel terrible, you might score runs, and it's the same with bowling. Like, so yeah, control what you can, I guess, and give yourself the best chance.
Well, something that's definitely hot on the chatting list is kind of the domestic cricket scene in South Africa. What would you say the biggest difference is between the two?
Well, obviously, I haven't played any domestic cricket in South Africa, so I can't really comment on kind of the standard and stuff like that. But the thing with first-class cricket, for example, all around the world, it's competitive because it's different conditions, And whether you're playing in Australia or India or South Africa or England, wherever it is, it's going to be a difficult and highly competitive stand of cricket. I'd say the only major difference is the kind of volume, the amount of cricket that is played. In the UK, as I say, it's a long season, so you tend to play a lot more cricket. But now, like, South Africa has kind of the CSA have opted for this new restructure, and I think that's kind of made it more similar to the county system now, so there'll be a lot more cricket played, I think, in the coming years.
So what do you think has to happen without not putting yourself in hot water, but what do you think needs to change within CSA to get to where we I suppose once were?
Um, like I don't think there is a massive issue at the moment, and I say this because like the test team, for example, any country, any team, you go through like peaks and troughs of forms and of you play different series. And in the last like year and a half, South Africa had some really difficult series, coming up against really strong sides and stuff. So I don't think that's the issue. Is not that. It's just they are the top of the kind of iceberg, and people think that cricket is going the standard of cricket is going down, but I don't think it is. I think the biggest thing is trying to bridge the gaps between the national stuff and then the domestic stuff. And you can see where when the test teams, whether it's Australia, India, whoever it is, when they're doing really well, it's because that I'd imagine that gap is really small. So you get guys coming up, new players, and they kind of take to international cricket really easily and are able to make performances almost straight away because that it's not such a drastic change.
Yeah, I think it was the England series where that came up, where the commentators were saying there's a big difference between like the domestic scene and now the Proteas and international cricket, which is it's interesting. I think. So you're living the dream, Dan. Childhood dream. How surreal must that feeling be, bro? Tell us for the guys who don't know.
Yeah, it is amazing, dude. Like, I was also a kid once, and grew up watching these guys who I'm playing now with and against, and it takes some getting used to. But the one thing you do realize, and all these guys are just normal people, and that somebody is human after all, and it's great. I take the sponge mentality around these guys and try and ask lots of questions and try and learn as much as I can because it's incredible. It is. These guys have played all around the world in various tournaments and various fixtures, and yeah, so much experience to learn from.
Yeah. Dan, you've moved over. It's gone pretty smoothly, I'd say. Any regrets?
Yeah, not really regrets. There's a couple of things, like small things. I mean, the biggest thing would be family. That's probably the most difficult part. Only really get to come home once a year around Christmas time and see the family and stuff. But I've kind of been here now for nearly 2.5 years, so you kind of learn to get used to those things. And even though it is difficult, some days are harder than others and stuff. But it's almost like you have to look at it like it is a job, and the things I'm doing is what I want to be doing, and I know by doing these things I'm making my family proud, and yeah, you kind of learn to deal with that. Another thing is the weather. Yeah, you do miss the sun quite a bit. The winters here can be quite tricky sometimes, coming from Durban and even Cape Town, like, yeah, we don't really get anything as cold as here, so it's a bit of an adjustment, but you get used to it.
Okay, cool. What's next for you, Dan, in the next 4, 8, 12 years? Where are you going to be playing? You playing IPL, Big Bash? What's maybe some Ram Slam T20 or whatever it's called?
Yeah, in 4 years' time, I think I'd like to kind of secure my position as a successful county cricketer. I think it's every day trying to learn and get better, and hopefully my goal is to play Test cricket. And in 4 years' time, if I'm playing Test cricket, I think a lot would have gone right, and that's something I'm aiming towards. And I mean, a couple of franchise deals wouldn't hurt. It would be great to experience playing around the world, whether it be in the Big Bash or the IPL, or to travel the world and just play cricket. I guess that would be incredible. 8 years is an interesting one because that is a long time, but also not really. Yeah, I think it is a goal for that kind of length would be. I would love to be like the #1 ranked bowler in the world in like Test cricket or any format for that matter. You know, consistently making performances, things like that. Those are the kind of things you aim for. But as I say, it's the process that gets you
Processes, let's go.
there. Yeah, 12 years is. Yeah, hopefully I'll still be playing.
Retired, living on the beach somewhere.
I think as a spinner, you know, if you stay fit and mobile and stuff, I think you can squeeze out a few more years than the other guys. So hopefully still playing, and you know, would have kind of left the goal for I think anybody is to leave a legacy in some way, shape or form. You know, you always want to better the environments that you're in and stuff like that. And over that period of time, it would have been probably 80% of my career. So hopefully I've done a few things that are noteworthy.
Phenomenal. Dan, thanks so much for joining me, bro. I really appreciate it. And good luck for training and life that side. I know it must be a pretty tough. I know the weather, bro. For me, the weather, it must be just my mood is genuinely affected by the weather. So I hope you managing that. And thanks.